nothing makes sense and plenty of it. And that's what my brother Mitch used to say. And he's right, because nothing still makes sense and plenty of it. And we'll talk about how nothing makes sense and plenty of it. But today we got a wonderful Green Diva in with us, Green Diva Ellie, who's been on various sundry shows in different forms. This is the first time we're doing the Zoom thing, Zoom.
Yeah, Maxine, reintroduce yourself, because I don't know if our beginning was recorded or not. I don't think so.
Okay, I'm
Introduce the show again.
All right, this is the Zoomcast version of 50 Shades of Green Divas. We're on today with three of us. Green Diva Ellie is joining us from New Jersey. We got Malcolm out in LA, La La Land, and I'm in the Quad in New York. I won't explain what that is, but if you live in the Quad, you'll know what it is. And I'm just so glad to have Ellie on the show today, because she's incredible human on every level. She's passionate about the environment. She works with the Drawdown Project and with Climate Reality and Pachamama, and has done events, corporate events for many, many years. And she just did an amazing event, which we'll get into in a little bit. And she'll talk about how that developed, how it came out to be fabulous. And it was a joy to work with her, even in my smaller level of things. But she's awesome. She's awesome. So anyway, there's crazy things to talk about. I mean, we have a president with COVID in the White House. We had a debate last night between the VPs, which the biggest thing that came of it was the fly on Pence's head. And that tells us where the country's at this point. Yeah, 2 minutes of a fly on the head, and that was what got the most, reporting, pretty much so.
Just by the way, next week I've invited the fly to be on the show.
Oh, okay. I think
that's known as the fly on the wall, and so now it's the fly on the head.
Yeah, and then Kamala, basically saying, "Let me speak," because he kept trying to interrupt again and go over his time, and things were said. They were mostly talking about COVID and the pandemic and the economy, and I don't know what your take was, but I'm not sure. It was a little more civil than the last one, but that's the way it went out.
Well, what I want to speak to you guys about is, since we're an environment, and we're talking about the global warming or the climate changes, and according to our vice president, they listen to science. And I don't know what scientists he's talking to, because every scientist that I hear and that are on the air or report say there's things that we have to do before it's too late.
Right.
And one of them is delete carbon emission.
Right. Reduce to about zero we can get. Right. Yeah, well, that song, 1, 2, 3, what are we fighting for? And at the end it goes, look out, we're all going to die. Well, I don't think we're going to die. I think, as Ellie's going to point out, there's a lot of things that are encouraging, and so is Biden's plan. It's not quite the Green New Deal, which seems to be, which is a resolution, which is ideology more than something that's being put into play right now. But Biden has a plan that he wants to narrow the scope. The Green New Deal is over a much larger period, but the Biden plan just puts it into a little more perspective. He would lay out $2 trillion, which is a heck of a lot of money, over 4 years. And it would work with energy infrastructure, trying to get carbon free. And there's a lot of reforms in it. And he did work with things like this with when he was VP with Obama. And there's just, it's something he believes has to be aggressive. And they have to have social justice components, more like environmental justice components, and sustainable housing and supporting, transitions so that workers can get jobs. green jobs are very important, and reducing carbon is the key to all of
It's
this.
a key. Ali, tell us what you've been working on, because I understand you have a very exciting project.
Oh, I'm just done with it. And Maxine played a large part of it. She was on the planning
Some
committee.
part,
You
a
definitely
part.
you played played a very important part. Yeah, I was the co-producer with my partner Monica Weiss of the Drawdown 2020. The time is now. Have you heard of Drawdown?
I've heard it from Maxine. I haven't heard it otherwise.
All right, maybe I should just give a very brief summary of what it is. All right.
Definitely.
So and you'll let me know if my sound is working. Okay. All right.
Your lips are out of sync, but we hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not out of sync, just my lips. Drawdown was a plan, a research study that looked at, probably started in 2014, that looked at existing solutions that we have to climate on the planet right now to see whether it was possible to reverse global warming. Everyone knows of the bad things that are going to happen if we don't work on the climate crisis, humankind's greatest existential challenge. But what Paul Hawken, who was the founder of Drawdown, wanted to find out was, can we turn this around with already existing solutions? So it was a multi-year study. Over 225 people were involved, experts in every field, scientists, researchers. And the book came out, here it is, in 2017.
I have that.
You have that? Okay.
I do. You sent it to me.
Right. I gave it to you. It was a New York Times bestseller. And it was a real game changer because it proved that, yes, we had what we needed and that we could begin to reduce drawdown, drawing carbon down, right, to levels below the Industrial Revolution. We could get ourselves down to where we had been. We're about 418, 419 parts per million of carbon right now.
That's bad.
Millions. Yeah, I mean, for thousands, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years, we've never been above 300. And when the Industrial Revolution started, we started to go up like this. So this book and this study proved that we could, if we scaled up all the solutions in the book that were identified, reverse global warming. So,
well, is that reducing the emission of carbon or absorbing carbon?
It's both. It's reducing it from its source, right? So using less fossil fuels so we don't send it up, right? And also sequestering carbon in the ground, keeping it where it is in the ground, supporting nature sinks that keep it in the ground. It's doing both of those things, both of those parts of it. That's the only thing we can do. We can send less up and sequester stuff here. That's what we need to do.
How do we keep it
we
down?
have to look at the below, what's below us. People don't know what's under their feet and above us. People don't look always at I'm looking at gorgeous trees. I'm surrounded by absolute gorgeous trees, and what they give to us, the life, the oxygen. People need to realize that, and what's underground with it. There's a movie called Fantastic Fungi, which is about the mushrooms and about the underground network they have and how they're supporting it. And the sinks, and getting rid of fossil fuels, like keep the oil in the ground, right? Keep it there.
But how do we absorb, how does the earth absorb the carbon that we emit?
Well, I'll give you one example. Everybody knows that trees absorb the carbon. They keep it within their body. Do you know that the ocean and kelp forests in the ocean are even more powerful than the trees that are on the ground. And so that's one of the things that we can do is support the ocean, make it healthier. And people don't even think about it. People haven't thought about it because it hasn't been anything that we have seen. But we know that now. For instance, as the glaciers are melting and the permafrost is melting, the carbon that was stored there is now escaping in the atmosphere. We need to do everything that we can to keep nature's sinks doing what they've done for so long. And so that's a large part of drawdown. There's lots of different solutions that if we support, we can actually begin to reverse global warming starting in about mid-century.
So Ellie, the event that was done, which was
Yes.
which was wonderful and is getting accolades and really informed people who were watching it at the time and now, hopefully after that. What can you tell us about that event and some of the people who were so terrific, scientists and organizers who are working to make a difference?
Well, let me just say this, that one of the things that we've learned is that talking about the consequences of not doing anything, oftentimes, I mean, climate change is no longer in the future. It's right in front of us now. Mm-hmm. All of these disasters have happened. San Francisco, the West Coast burning, floods, etc. I don't need to go into all of that. We see it, we know it. And one of the things that we've found out is that belaboring that point and saying how terrible things are going to be and scaring people in the process actually does more harm than good. It actually makes people apathetic and resigned, I would say, apathetic and resigned. So what we intended to do with our event, and Max, you'll remember this from the very beginning.
Sure.
I said, I want to focus on what's working, what people are already doing, what's happening right now that's actually reversing this situation. And so what we did was we curated, as Maxine knows, various.
It was quite an amazing undertaking, I have to say.
Yes, we curated so much stuff and winnowed it down, but we curated the best documentaries that we could find, featuring people who were actually hard at work doing the work. And then we, rather than showing the bad news, we focused on the good news. We focused on people that were actually changing the world.
Tell me what they're doing. I need good news.
Okay,
I live in California. I live in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And from what I read, we've had last year was the hottest year. The other week, it was I think 130 degrees in Death Valley, the hottest ever recorded.
Yes.
On Earth.
Yes.
What was it, 1918? In 2018, I think they said 1.4% of the forests were acres were on fire. This year so far, there's over 4 million acres on fire, from 1.8 to 4 million.
Right.
It's 4% of California.
That's California alone.
Well, no, 4% of California is burned. There was that 60-minute piece. I don't want to interrupt with that, but one of the fire chiefs was saying that there were 10 fires happening at once, and the length of the fire line would stretch from LA to New York.
Well, exactly. I wake up in the morning and smell the air to see if I smell flames.
Yeah.
Right. No, I grew up in Los Angeles, and I remember actually as a young girl driving with my father in the car and looking out in LA and seeing the most gorgeous sunset. And I remember saying to my father, "Oh my God, look how beautiful that is." And my dad was in charge of science programs at the California Museum of Science and Industry. And he looked at me, I'll never forget it. And he said, "What you're looking at is quite beautiful, but actually, Ellie, what that is are the waning sun's rays catching the particles of smog that, that's in the air. He says, what you're looking at is poison. I will never forget it. And I also will never forget him saying to me, but you know what? We're hard at work, he said, coming up with ways to reduce emissions from cars. And some of that is going to get implemented very soon. And I do remember as a young woman, not so much as a young girl, seeing the difference. So I'm not in LA now, but yes, my father warned me of that many decades ago.
Let's get back to what we're doing positive.
Yeah,
okay.
I love that story, by the way, Ellie, and I know that implanted in your brain what you're doing now.
Oh my God.
That brought you here. So yeah, so let's talk about some of the people who were at the event and what they.
Well, let's talk about. There's a fellow named Bren Smith. He was a die-hard commercial fisherman,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometime in the 90s, he grew up in a small coastal village. I think I want to say it was in I can't remember where it was. It wasn't in America. But what happened was he lived and breathed fish. He said, I lived for fish.
Yep.
He said, I'm not an environmentalist. He said, I'm a hunter. And somewhere he was out on the Bering Sea when the cod stock that kept his village afloat crashed. Mm-hmm. And it was during that period of time that he realized that he was not going to be able to survive and make a living for his family on a dead ocean. Right. And that experience and seeing the history of his village change in one season when the cod, just died, right. changed him. And he investigated and he became a restorative ocean farmer. Mm-hmm. And in the process of doing that, he started a movement. He has started a movement.
It's awesome. Yeah.
22 different countries are contacting him. Every coastal city in the United States has contacted him. He has created a program where you can take like 20 acres of sea near the coast and you can actually grow oysters, kelp. I'm forgetting some of the other things. Some shellfish, and you are as you do this, you're also regenerating the ocean forest below you, and the fish that weren't there are coming back, right? And the predators are coming back as well.
But so, what are they doing about the pollution? Because I understand a lot of the changing of the oceans and the death of plants and fish are caused by the pollution that we're throwing into the ocean, and that we thought for years we were just dumping all our waste into the ocean. Now it's coming back to haunt us.
Well, for instance, right, some of the reefs are dead, right? The coral reefs are dead. He's found where he manages, where he is the steward for that area, actually growing things off a small boat on ropes. It's extraordinary. Wish I could show you folks the video. By doing that, by mimicking what a healthy ocean looks like, he's bringing back the ecosystem that had died. He's actually regenerating the reefs, and all the creatures that had left to go elsewhere are coming back. So, and what he says, the World Bank or the World Economic Forum did a study that said that just in the United States, if we began to do this kind of work, restorative ocean farming, we could create 50 million new jobs while at the same time making our oceans healthier.
Wow.
And if you want to support the middle class, right, that's losing their jobs left and right, this would really be something extraordinary to do. And we can also feed people, talk about food scarcity, the food that he's creating, the things that chefs are doing with the food from the sea is rather extraordinary. So
Yeah.
that's one thing, and he's created a movement.
Right.
Let's see.
We also had
Well,
Chester, who,
what's
the
that?
biggest little farm, the biggest little
Oh,
farm.
sure. I want to talk a moment about John Liu.
John Liu, right.
Okay, because one of the things we also featured was the restoration of degraded land, both large areas and small areas. So John Liu in the 90s was sent as a cameraman to document the restoration of the Loess Plateau, an area the size of France that had been degraded for thousands of years. That soil was gone. You know, there was no topsoil. It was a mess. It was just like desert. And he, over time, documented that within 7 years of them working on this area, they were able to restore the land. It came back. They had to be very diligent. They had to see what nature needed, and they did it. And his films have been awarded many awards, but more important than that, since he's done this, there have been this kind of restoration all over the world. Now, John Chester, who Max is talking about, is an award-winning filmmaker who bought 250 acres in Moore Park, California. Is that near you, Malcolm?
Moore Park?
Moore Park, California.
Yeah, I'm not too far away. That's it.
Not too far away. 250 acres worth of land was completely degraded after 40 years of industrialized farming and all of that. He's a filmmaker. His wife was a chef. They left what they were doing to follow their dream, which was to create and regenerate this land. And he documents it in a film that I would like everyone to please Google and find out about, called The Biggest Little Farm.
Yeah.
It is such a gorgeous, beautiful film. It was shortlisted for an Academy Award this year. And he was one of our guests. So Brent Smith was one of our guests that night. And Chester was one of our guests that night. And many others. And people came away, this is the point that I think I want to make, and I think, Max, you would agree, that people came away from our event knowing our challenge, yet at the same time, knowing that it was possible to do something about it. So that the emails that we got and the phone calls that we got was, thank God it was a balm for the soul. It was needed, invigorating, inspiring, transformational. My point that I don't want to talk much longer, but it's important that those of us that are concerned about climate, that we really know and understand that we can do something about it. Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. He didn't say, I have a nightmare. He could have, right? Because it was a nightmare. But he said, I have a dream. What we did at our event was we documented the dream of what was possible when people begin to engage in this work. And my hope,
I hate to put on a negative spin on this, but again, I'm a realist.
Okay.
How much can individuals affect the climate change or the global warming, and how much has to be institutional by government? It's sort of like when I was young, I used to love Imagine all the people living in a world, the John Lennon, without a government, we would all be, beautiful and love each other. And now I realize without a government, there's going to be chaos. There's going to be individual groups fighting individual groups. I'm no longer an idealist. Now, how much can individuals affect the climate change, and how much is too late for them to get involved? It's sort of like,
not
Yes.
Braz-
Oh,
in
well,
Bra-
well,
Brazil, yeah.
there's a couple of things. There's a couple of things. The last thing that we showed at our event was Louis Syophilis. He won an
never
Academy
get-
Award. I know, Academy. I had to think about how to say his name. An Academy Award for directing the movie The Cove, where he documented what was happening when killer whales and dolphins are yeah, are trapped for places like SeaWorld and so on. He's a National Geographic photographer and Academy Award winning filmmaker. And by the way, by doing that film, that transformed how some of these parks are handling some of these creatures and not having some of those creatures in their, like SeaWorld. One of the things that he said was that it's been proven that change can happen, movements can happen when 10% of the people are 100% committed.
Right.
We don't need everybody. We just need 10% to be 100% committed. And we know that 70% of the people in this country believe in climate change, believe in the solutions, but they don't know what to do about it. Here's what they can do about it. They can vote.
Vote is the most important.
Vote.
Right
Okay.
now, voting is
Right. They can
numero
vote.
uno.
They can vote. That's number one. But also, many of the changes that are going on are not just at the federal level, but they're done at the municipal level, the
Mhm.
city level, and the state level. So, yeah, and just to find out, just for people literally to find out, how can I make a difference? Max and I are both on our local environmental committees, right? In our towns.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Ellie,
That's-
how can our audience get involved? Do you have a contact number that they could get, or for your group or for yourself? So,
Well, I want them to go to drawdown.org,
Or-
right? And geez, my contact information.
There's also
Yeah.
.org. If you go on, you can find out, if you go through it, how you can help, how you can become a part, how you become more involved.
Right.
Local is important. I mean, get involved in organizations. There's national, there's like 350.org.
Yep.
There's the Climate Reality Project. If
Climate
you
reality.
go on
Yes.
and find out, you're a climate reality,
Mhm.
you got your climate reality pin, huh?
I do.
It's
I do.
very important that you sign on, I mean, to
Yeah.
one of these organizations to help. I mean, if you want at home, it really does help if you have LED long bulbs.
Oh
It'll
my
reduce
God.
it'll reduce your electric bill, and it'll be doing something positive. Low hanging fruit, if enough of us do it, it does work.
a simple thing is recycle.
Yeah,
Yes.
reuse.
Eat less meat.
Right.
Have a plant-rich diet. Go into the stores and say, why do you have plastic bags?
Right.
Go up to the manager. I mean, and talk to other people about it. The most important thing is to talk to other people about it.
Right.
And
It's
share.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can
I
send
know
you.
we have to get involved, because from what I hear, again, not to be frightening, but that it's, it's, they said, originally, 2050, but it's
Right.
upon us now. It's with
Oh,
the
it's upon us
fires,
now.
with the intensities of the hurricanes. Like I was listening to the debate, and
Right.
Penn said, well, we have as many hurricanes as there was, we don't have any more hurricanes, except we've run out of the alphabet.
Right. Now we're in the Greek alphabet.
Yeah,
right?
we're in Delta, I think.
Right.
And, and the intensity is greater.
That's the important part. The intensity is greater. The rainfall is greater. The storms stall over, places like Houston that don't have the ability to absorb it because everything is all concrete. The intensity, the effect is so much more powerful. I don't know about you, but we recently had a day here in New Jersey where it was, let's say, 45, and then the next day was 75. When does that happen?
Well, that
The other
happened
day.
in, they had it in Denver.
And anyway, guys, believe it or not, our half hour is up.
Oh my gosh.
And
Oh.
that went by fast. And Maxine, I didn't know whether you, I
You gotta
didn't know
give me a
whether,
minute to do this poem, though. I gotta do this
oh yeah,
poem.
put your poem in. That's what I'm saying.
Anything else? Okay,
Go
Ellie,
for it, and then we'll close.
Yes, my love.
first of all, you're awesome and keep doing all this fantastic work, and we're so proud of what you do, and you are truly a green diva on so many levels.
And we
Well
want you
done,
back, and we
Valerie.
want you back on to participate in the show and let
Absolutely.
us know.
Let's create some special stuff. We'll focus in on all these different things, okay?
Definitely.
Definitely.
Thank you very much.
So
We'll listen to what
today
Maxine ends our
in the
show.
news, I'm going to end the show with this poem because today, Louise Gluck became a Nobel laureate in literature for poetry. If you can catch any of her books or her poems, I recommend it highly. And she has one poem in particular that it's called Snowdrop. And I'm just going to read it because it's marvelous. So here we go. This Nobel laureate poem, Snowdrop. Do you know what I was, how I lived? You know what despair is. Then winter should have meaning for you. I did not expect to survive, earth suppressing me. I didn't expect to waken again, to feel in damp earth my body able to respond again. Remembering after so long how to open again in the cold light of earliest spring, afraid, yes, but among you again, crying, yes, risk joy in the raw wind of the new world. She just nails it right there. And now you know why she just won the Nobel.
Yeah, thank you very much, Max.
So-
Thank you again, Ellie.
So everyone, thanks,
the end of the
Ellie.
week.
Thanks, Malcolm. We'll see you next time.
Good night, John Boy.
Good night, John. Good night, John girl. Good night, Mary Ellen.